Hi, I'm Ashley Swartz, founder of Furious Minds. This is my weekly segment on the industry. So let's talk about AT&T and Direct. We covered the Comcast Time Warner deal a few weeks ago when it first was announced, and sort of wanted to peel back the onion as to what the real motivation of the deal was, other than just sort of size, right? And I mean, look, the overall trend, and I suggested this when I did the first report, is we're talking about going back to the pendulum swinging to sort of the Mon-Bell era, right? Where we've got an oligopolistic market that is very, very quickly potentially becoming a duopolistic market. And that's scary. And it means the only person who's going to lose, honestly, is the consumer, especially when you look at the fact that the Comcast Time Warner deal, those two are the worst performing as far as consumer performance ratings in regards to customer service. And at the end of the day, these guys are just going to get bigger, which means their service performance is probably going to diminish. So, you know, what's this mean for the marketplace? So just to take some numbers really directly, the Comcast Time Warner deal is about a $45 million deal, and combined total, we're talking about 34 million subs once they consolidate their footprints. So that's the fourth largest and the first largest operator in the U.S. when you look at that combination. The AT&T Direct deal is the second and sixth largest operators in the U.S., and the sort of deal for stock, a cash combination, is about $48.5 million. But when you take on the debt and you add that DirecTV carries right now on its balance sheet, and AT&T incurs that, it's about a $67 billion deal in total for a combined footprint of 25.5 million subs, which is pretty substantial. So, you know, what's the motivation, right? Well, obviously AT&T and Uverse has sort of had a difficult time deploying infrastructure. It's very capital intensive, et cetera. They have a small footprint. This gives them all of a sudden overnight a national footprint because Direct is a satellite provider, right? They're going to have more over the top rights, which is a big deal. They're going to have a heck of a lot more negotiating leverage. They'll now be, theoretically, if Time Warner Comcast goes through, they'll be the second largest operator in the U.S. That being the case, all of a sudden now they have some negotiating power in regards to their programming costs, which changes the paradigm a lot for AT&T overall. The NFL Sunday Ticket's a big part of this, right? And AT&T actually has an out clause that if Direct is not able to renew its Sunday Ticket, which the question is, now that Comcast has a larger footprint, do they have more leverage or negotiating power? What is Verizon going to do, right? So they have an out clause, and it's thought that one of the primary motivations for AT&T is this NFL content access. But this is absolutely a play about, you know, sort of top of mind share is content programming and an ability and leverage to negotiate. But the reality is that also satellite, you know, has higher ARPU on average, right? And that is one of the core KPIs of all operators, higher than AT&T's in particular. And we think that is a big motivation for AT&T's board and for their shareholders. The commitments by AT&T to get approval by federal regulatory commissions is pretty interesting, right? They've committed that they're going to extend within 4 years of the merger going through an additional 15 million commercial and residential footprint for broadband access. They're going to minimally guarantee, where feasible, it's an interesting sort of nebulous disclaimer, right? A minimum of 6 megabits throughput for their entire broadband footprint. And then they are also going to ensure that current DirecTV subscribers have continued service under the independent autonomous DirecTV brand for 3 years at the same price they're paying today. And additionally, they have guaranteed that they will adhere to the 2010 net neutrality best practices, which the FCC recently overturned and are sort of up for debate, right? So all good faith gestures, et cetera, but a lot of disclaimers and a lot of gray matter there. So what's the real reason? Well, I honestly don't think the programming leverage and the pricing and that stuff is a big part of it, right? I think wireless is actually a big motivation here, because if you look at what's so interesting, what does the AT&T Direct deal consist of? If you look at sort of the bundling and the packaging, right, which is obviously a big part of this, satellite also now you can bring wireless, home security for AT&T, et cetera. What does this AT&T Direct deal have that sort of Comcast and Time Warner lacks? And that's wireless. So if you think about the opportunity using Direct's negotiating power to get a national over-the-top rights and deploy a TV everywhere authenticated platform, right? And AT&T dropped its all-you-can-eat data plan in 2012. For me, that's a great incremental lift in revenue, right? If you start to actually drive data consumption on your network on a highly, highly profitable product, like, you know, throughput on wireless networks, that is an incredible profit center to actually drive collective ARPU holistically across the entire sort of subscriber base for wireless, as well as then cable and satellite for what will, you know, soon be the AT&T DirecTV combined company. The other big sort of sleeping giant here is Latin America, right? That was kind of a footnote in all the articles I saw. I think that's really important. Right now, I believe DirecTV has 18 million subscribers in multiple markets in Latin America, right? And we can't overlook the value of developing economies because their growth rates are 3-5x multiples of that of the US, right? There's incredible runway there. Right now, Latin America overall has about 42.9% of the population has access to broadband. And if we look at sort of 2010, 2011 as a reference point for growth rates, Latin America overall increased year over year 15% in broadband penetration, right? If we look at that math, same time period for the US, that's a 3.5 times fast growth rate rather. If you play that out, that suggests that by 2018, if you look at the total population of Latin America being 592 million, by 2018, Latin America is going to have a broadband penetration rate in that of the US. And if you all of a sudden now have content to deliver to a market that is growing at a 3x time rate that your largest market is, that has an even more voracious and insatiable appetite for video, and has totally skipped the browser and gone right to mobile, that's a pretty good place to be, especially when you consider the fact that AT&T just struck a deal in late 2013 and is one of the larger interconnect providers for multinational with a footprint in over, I think it's like 11 countries, 15 Latin American countries in the US, in Latin America rather, with American Mobile, which has the 3 largest carriers, and that includes Mexico and Brazil, 2 of the largest markets. So for me, this is a developing market play. This is actually finding a hockey stick of growth because I'm not sure that it exists in telecom, in media, in television, in the US. I'm not sure that hockey stick exists anywhere, right? The economics of IP distributed content are not the same as legacy infrastructure. That's one of the big problems. There's fixed costs in all this infrastructure. All of a sudden now we have this opportunity in growing markets like Latin America where the browser is being leapfrogged, it is all mobile, and if you have a footprint and you're actually driving the infrastructure and you forward migrating the value chain into consumer business, you're basically rinsing and repeating and replicating the models that have worked in developed economies like the US for AT&T and why they are and they have the stronghold, why they are who they are and they have the stronghold they do today. So that's my take. I'd love to hear yours. I think it's exciting and I will watch it. And I'm very happy to say that I subscribe to none of these individuals' cable services. So hopefully I'll be safe with my other small provider. Thanks. Have a great day.